Okay, willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to my channel. So, I have to make a Halloween costume, like super quick. So, let's see what I can do, because my idea is to do a male version of Snow White. So, I have some lining fabric that's probably going to be used more for interfacing. I have some faux reddish purple silk because I thought I had red. I have a pair of white jeans that I'm going to dye yellow. Some assortments of trims. Maybe a lining fabric, don't know yet. And I got these curtains from Amazon, which are made out of blue faux velvet. So let's go ahead and get this started by first doing the pattern. So let's go. So now I've drafted this pattern from the costume that I did for Rapunzel. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this a little bit. I'm going to try and putting a seam down the back, and I'm going to try lengthening this a little bit more and also develop sleeves for it, because what I want to do is something similar to what they call a Romeo Juliet sleeve. Now, that's what it looks like. So, my plan is to try figuring out if this works. So I have to go through my stash of patterns and try finding the sleeve pattern that I use constantly. So what I'm starting off by doing is doing something called a slash and spread. I'm basically cutting the pattern apart so that I can turn it into multiple pattern pieces. Here I sliced where the dart was so I can get rid of the dart, and making this back piece into two pieces. Unfortunately, I decided to go something way different than what I originally thought I was going to do. I thought I was just going to whip this thing together, but I went a little too far in depth into this. So these are some little bit of tailoring tricks that you can do to basically get rid of a dart if you wanted to, and just put a seam there. I am adding the seam allowance and adding where the pieces need to be so they line up. I pulled out a pattern piece that I have. I will go ahead and put that down below, but this is from Mood Fabrics, and I'm only going to be using the sleeve part on this. So I traced it out and then did again the slash and spread technique, to where basically I made the sleeve a lot wider so that it could also be gathered down into the standard sleeve piece. At this point I was planning on doing a full-length sleeve for this costume, so here's me patterning out a full-length sleeve with a cuff as one piece. I opted not to use the lower half of this sleeve because it was primarily going to be a short sleeve anyways. One, I ran out of time, and two, I just ran out of effort, to be honest. But I still have the pattern piece if I do want to make this a long sleeve shirt or long sleeve top later on. I'm going to make this a double sleeve so that there's a lower part that's smooth and an upper part that's all rouged. So let me see where I want this to be folded, because that's where the seam is going to be. So mark on your pattern where your alterations need to be. Like I need to add seam allowance to this right here, and add seam allowance to this right there, because otherwise I'm going to be running out of paper doing this. So now for this piece right here, since I want this to be more of a floofy Juliet sleeve, I need to do something called a slash and spread. So let me see if I have another piece of paper that's big enough. Right here I actually show the technique of how you basically cut it apart equally and evenly, and then spread it apart and tape it together. Just remember, you want to increase the measurements between the gaps equally so that you are adding equal width or length to both sides of your pattern piece. Now once you've got everything taped down, you will have to play connect dots and basically put your pattern back together again. And that, gather it down. So, I got my pattern piece. I may have to go back and, where's my microphone? Oh, it's right there. So I may have to go back and make an underline piece for this. I don't know yet, but I do have that pattern. It's right here. So I can just go ahead and cut off the little fins on the side there so it lines everything up. Other than that, I think I'm ready to start cutting this out of the interfacing. So this, I hope, is going to be enough for the blues, not the blue. This, I hope, is going to be enough for the red silk because I'm going to be putting bands over the top of it with the blue velvet. So let me see how much red silk I have. Ooh. Okay, so what I could do is put a little bit on the bias. Yeah, it'll stretch a little bit, but all this is going to be gathered in anyways. So remember that when you are putting something on the bias, that the fabric will change with its warp and weft. Just fair warning. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, but velvet, even if it's faux velvet or not, has a nape. So, or a nap, depending on how you want to pronounce it. In other words, if there's all these little fibers that are in velvet, okay? And if you go one way, it's nice and smooth, but if you go the other way, it's kind of rough. If you want it to last longer, then put the smooth way going down. But if you want to catch more light, then have it go the opposite way. Unfortunately, when you do have it go the opposite way, it won't last as long, and it does tend to fall apart a lot faster. So I'm going to go ahead and pin down these pieces, and then I'm going to cut them out, and I'm going to flatline them together. If you don't know what flatlining is, basically treat each piece as if they're one. So I'm going to serge around each of the two pieces with the interface and the velvet as one piece, serge all the way around, and then do the same for each piece. It's going to give it more stability once getting sewn together. So, faux velvet or not, I hate sewing velvet. So I started off trying to serge the pieces together as flatlining, and that didn't work. They started to shift, so I just pinned them both together, all 4 layers, and sewed it right down the middle. I'm going to have to steam and then press flat with my fingers to push out these seams, clip the curves, and hopefully be able to do the same thing on the front. And I got a pucker right there, but maybe I can steam that out because this stuff is a pain to sew with. So, but hopefully it'll look good in the very end because, again, velvet looks expensive. This is faux, 100% faux. These curtains were like $10 on Amazon. So, yeah, let's go ahead and go. Oh, and I also cut off the trim, the finished edge that was on there, and played around with it. I think if I have enough of this, I'm going to use this for the sleeves, for those strappy bits on the sleeve. I don't know yet. I have to see how much I have left. So let's go ahead and put the front together. I know this video is kind of all over the place, but again, this is multiple things happening all at one time. I basically started dyeing the pants. Here are the jeans. Oh, they're still a little wet, but yeah, there's the jeans. That should be yellow enough. Cool. So now that it's all over the place, let's go back to the construction of the sleeve. Here is the undersleeve and the oversleeve. Again, this is where I changed it into a short sleeve, but you can see that the oversleeve is a lot larger than the undersleeve. This is to give it the structure that it needs to hold its shape and keep it fluffy. Right here I am putting a gathering stitch along the bottom and the top of the sleeve so that I can gather it down to the actual size of the undersleeve. And if I may offer any suggestion, please put a double stitch row of gathering stitches, because that'll make it a whole lot easier than doing it single. Because I found this out trying to do this super fast. Do a double stitch. It'll help you out in the long run. I did end up having enough of the finished edge from the bottom of the curtains to basically put these straps over the top. I'm going to sew this all at one time so that it is evenly spaced and offers the same amount of gather for everything. Now the straps I am not gathering, but the under part I am. So you'll see what it does when you put one single stitch over the whole thing and not have to do multiple sewing steps. Now as you see right there, I did leave a little bit of gap because I am going to gather that down once I set the sleeve into the doublet itself. So you'll never see that once it's all gathered down. And again, this is being done really rushed, so I apologize that it's primarily voiceover, but you can see here that I'm sewing the straps to the bottom, and this is when I make it a short sleeve because I was just done and needed to get done fast. So, executive decision, it's going to be a short sleeve because this blue velvet is a pain in the rear end to sew. So I'm basically just going to fold this under, catch the lining part, hem that, probably do a whip stitch real quick on the inside. Still have to do a quick lining on it, at least for the front. So that it has this part that can go back, and then I gotta do one more sleeve. One best thing about this is that I'm using a pre-sewn hem from the bottom of the curtain, and it doesn't look half bad. The darker red, I wish it was more, you know, Snow White red, but this is as good as I'm gonna be able to get without having to go out and buy anything, and just working with stuff that I currently have. So this is what it currently looks like as of right now, and hopefully I'll be able to get the other side done tonight and then go ahead and start sewing the lining. I'm gonna go downstairs and check on the pants and see how they're coming along. Oh, welcome back. So it's day 2, and I know I tried to get this done in one day, but that wasn't possible. So we're gonna go ahead and do the lining today, and I believe they're called peplum, but not 100% sure because the peplum is a solid piece, while this one is divided up into individual pieces. I have 9 of them to go around the bottom of the doublet itself, and then I've got to decide on what I'm going to use for the lining. But this is what I've got done so far. So I've got the doublet constructed with the 2 sleeves on it. I have to decide if I'm going to put a stand collar on it or not. I did make this little faux pirate shirt last night while I was watching TV, so I didn't videotape any of that. But my plan is later on to do an actual tutorial on how to actually sew a pirate shirt. But if you're interested, you can always go to Bernadette Banner's page, or you can actually, this is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form, but I did purchase her book, and there's some great sewing tricks on the inside of this book that I highly recommend you getting. You can get that off of Amazon as well. But I do plan on doing a tutorial later on how to do a pirate shirt. This one does not have any sleeves because, again, it's a costume and nobody's gonna see that. And I'm also making it a short sleeve, so why should I have long flowy sleeves like a pirate? So let's go ahead and get started on today by getting those little, we're just going to call them peplums because I have no idea what the actual term is right now. Again, I'm trying to do this in a hurry because I have no time. I have to have this done by next week, and I have no time to sew because I'm working a 7-day stretch of just work. So I have a photo shoot that I need to go to, and it's basically for fantasy fairies slash storybook characters. So I'm doing Snow White, or if they want to get touchy with it, I'll go as Prince Charming, I don't know. But I'm also going to use this as my Halloween costume at work, so that basically I'm doing a 2-for-1. So let's go ahead and get this started, and we'll see what we can get done today. Figure the only dark fabric that I have out of all my fabrics is Mickey Mouse. So since it's Snow White, I guess it's gonna be Mickey Mouse to go for the inside of the tabs, and then also, if I have enough, to be the inside of the doublet itself. So let's get sewing. So I said this was going to be the lining, and I just ran out of fabric. So this is going to be the lining of the back, and then nobody's going to see it. So this will just be our little secret. It's going to be this, because that's all I have left of the Disney. Not enough to do the 2 back pieces. So inside. So again, I ran out of the fabric, so I'm just basically using what I got. I finished the tabs and moved on to the lining itself. And no matter how fast you're doing something, it's always important to press your seams out, because no matter how fast you're doing it, you still want it to look good, and pressed seams always look more professional. So try to get it done. Okay, so I have the entire lining sewn together, and yeah, it's kind of a hodgepodge and a mishmash, but on the same thing is that this facing that's going to be on here, you're not even going to see once it's turned and rolled. And I also have the tabs sewn on to the bottom of the doublet, and starting to put them all together. Now I got to bag this entire thing out. I'm going to probably hand stitch along the bottom with the lining to it, just so that I can turn it inside out. Then I gotta also hand stitch around the arms, eyes, but I'll see, or maybe I can just turn it back and stitch right across it. I'll have to play around with it and see what I can do, but now comes the long, tedious pinning this whole thing together. So I've got pretty much everything pinned together, and I gotta go ahead and sew it, turn it inside out, and basically it's gonna be a little bit of work to get this doublet together. I'm still not sure if I want to just leave it open or to put grommets so that I can tie it up. I have to try that on and see what it looks like at the very end, but let me go ahead and get this bagged out, and then I'll go to the next step. So after I sewed all the way around it, I'm basically just clipping my edges so that it can turn nicely, and then I'm just going to flip it inside out. This is what they call by bagging it. So you basically create a bag and then flip it inside out, press everything nice, and then it comes out like it's all completely lined. After I pressed everything out, I threw it on so that I could see how it's sitting and how it's looking, and I'm liking the way it looks and that it's long enough for the costume to cover the belt loops. I opted to go with grommets, but I wanted them evenly spaced, so I have this tool that I've gotten for quite a while, and I forgot what it's called. But when you put in grommets, please be careful if you're using a scalpel like me, because that is very sharp. But basically you put the 2 parts together, the male and the female, and you squish them as hard as you can inside of a grommet press. You can get the ones where you hammer them together, but I had this one, so I'm going to use it. So just finished the doublet and the shirt. It's got all of its little tabs on it. I give it one more press, and the jeans are already good to go. All I gotta do is work on the wig for the photo shoot, but it's ready. I'll do the reveal when we do the photo shoot. And big shocker, the photo shoot didn't happen because we did hit a very large weather pattern and couldn't shoot for several days. So I did it later on. So here's the reveal. So recap, I am in the middle of editing it, and I did use the apple that I ended up 3D printing last year for the Evil Queen. Ended up having to do the photo shoot in my backyard and then do some fudging when it comes to editing. So all the background is 100% fake. The animals are stickers that I got from the editing program. I do use... And I did blur my face because I didn't want to be outside for very long. And I literally shot them in 5 minutes because I didn't want the neighbors looking at me. Because, again, they are out there. So, this costume had to be done super, super quick. And the photo shoot didn't happen because of the weather that we got hit with. Again, we can't control the weather, but we can control what we do. So we opted to stay safe, and my friend ended up running out of time because they came up for a convention and they couldn't do the photos, so they left. And so when it was sunny outside, I decided to just go ahead and do the photos. Now I did switch over to my long sleeve pirate shirt that I wear a lot for TikTok, and in doing so it looked a lot better to me, but it's also like 50 something degrees outside right now, so it is quite chilly, and it's nice to have something warm. So I'm going to be using the same thing again for Halloween when I wear it for work, because it's going to be cold. So if this is the type of content you are interested in, remember to like, share, subscribe, and come back for when we do another video. What that is, I still don't know, because I have to come up with something. Something that is entertaining. Something maybe Halloween-y. I don't know. And what's going on with my camera? Are you following the apple? Okay, so apparently this is following the apple and not me. So we'll see you next time, and we'll have less technical difficulties. So see you next time. Tschüssi!